Just a couple of miles and a far cry away from that abandoned stone cottage stands Linsfort Castle, built in 1720 by Captain Arthur Benson, said to be a descendant of Peter Benson, the master mason who built the Derry walls. It's been modernised a number of times in the intervening centuries by different owners, but there are still lots of visible signs of its antiquity. Nowadays, Alan Brooks and his wife Bridgine run it as a bed and breakfast, and aspire, with the produce of their garden, their hens and their bees, to be as self-sufficient as those tenant farmers we talked about earlier. Bridgine hails from Buncrana originally, but after working in broadcasting in Newcastle, where she met Alan, decided to get out of the rat race, and, well, here they are. Bridgine's mother it was who taught Alan to make traditional porridge, and he's taken to it with the zeal of a convert, cross-breeding it with rhubarb, apple preserves, spices and honey. So I'm having a welcome and rather exotic breakfast in the kitchen of a castle.
So it's called a castle, but it's actually a big house, really, isn't it?
Castles in those days were generally a large fortified house. With shutters and heavy studded doors.
Yes.
Usually have a wall round and some outbuildings. And if there were raids, the farmer would bring his workers and the families in and
inside the
shut
yard.
the shutters.
Yeah.
And those in. So it was an expression, a castle. But in fact, local history has it that there was a castle built here in 1620.
So this replaced an earlier version, is that the idea?
This was built on the foundations of the castle.
Well, you obviously added modern conveniences, and I just love the big fireplace here behind us as well. But you're trying to keep the character of the place very much, haven't you? Yeah.
Well, this is what's called a crane.
Yeah.
And this this is original from 1720.
Does that belong to this house?
It's belonged to the house. It's been there.
So that's the actual size of the original fire?
Now, the fireplace would be open up above.
Sure.
And the bottom hearth would be much wider.
Yeah.
And all of the cooking would be done here. The pots would be hanging down from the chains into the fire.
Sure.
And one of the local farmers tells me that he can remember his granny sitting in the rocking chair in the corner, doling porridge out of the pan to the farmhouse.
That's such a traditional
They used to come to the back door, 6 o'clock in the morning for the breakfast and a dollop of porridge. But instead of chopping the logs up or sawing the logs up, what they used to do was lie the logs across the floor, and as the fire consumed,
just feed them in?
push them in.
Yeah.
And he can remember that from 60 years ago.
Get away with that, right. His granny would have been sitting in this chair in this corner. So they actually lived in this house at that time, obviously.
Well, at times it's been two houses.
It's big enough, certainly. Yeah.
So it was split up between. There's an interesting plaque which we have. A family called the Baldricks of Linsfort lived here for about 200 years, from the late 18th century, right through the early 20th century.
I'm sure the Baldricks or any other of Linsfort Castle's previous owners would be only too pleased to have the current lady of the house, Bridgine, as their landscape gardener. The grounds may be smaller these days, but Bridgine does a fine line in topiary, turning her box hedges into replicas of the considerable menagerie that frequents the place.
I started with this little one. That is really a mark of tribute to a wee collie dog I had called Lizzie. And I planted her in there. Now, this is a time when there was no bushes at all here, it was just grass.
When you say planted her in there, you buried her in there?
I dug a hole and put her in.
So she's actually buried down underneath.
She's buried under here, yeah.
Right.
And I planted a bush, and knowing that the bush would do very well if there was a wee dog down there, but feed off it, basically. I mean, it's all recycling, isn't it?
No, of course, yeah.
And then I thought, oh, well, I'll put another wee bush there, and I thought, where could I cut the shape? And funny enough, it was easy enough to do. And then that was Lizzie. And then along came Riley.
This is Riley.
This is Riley on the hoof.
And Riley's got a stick in his mouth, and he's a stick in his mouth.
He is, yeah.
In reality, as well.
And then we acquired a little, a twin set of cats called Tressa August Tomas. Tomas wandered off.
Right.
I was left with Tressa, so these are all kind of works in progress.
Has she passed on to cat heaven?
No, she's just had a dinner, actually.
Oh, I see. Right.
And then
that's brilliant. I mean, that looks like a cat.
Yeah, well, you can
tell
see
that's a cat.
Well, the great thing about topiary is you can make mistakes and it grows back.
I see.
You see, you can make. It's not sculpture, you know.
Well, it is sculpture of a sort, isn't it?
Well, it is. Actually, I just do it for therapy now, you know.
Yeah.
But
that's brilliant. I mean, sorry, you've another
here,
one.
I'm trying to shape a chicken, but as you see,
Right.
I really just planted that.
That's
this
an early
summer.
chicken.
That's an early.
An early chicken. Right. You have to plan it, don't you?
I have a couple of peacocks out in the backyard.
Right.
And I was going to maybe try and fashion these into two fat ladies. I don't know how.
Yeah. I think they look
How
well as
realistic
they are.
I can get.
I think they are.
All I can say is that there are more hens to act as models than there are fat ladies. So I have great hopes that Bridging's hedge will be laying eggs in the near future.